so this morning I'm going off the summer of love, So we've been going through it a little bit. Last week, Julia Schmaltz talked. The week before that was Sean. Sean touched on love hopes. Love hopes through the midst of death. Love hopes through the midst of hopelessness. Love will hope. Julia Schmaltz talked last week on love trust. Love trust in the midst of her son driving her around. Love trust in the midst of fear and doubt. Love is willing to trust when it's really hard. And I get to talk to you guys about on how love protects. And going into this, I already had my mind set on what protect meant. I was like, this is gonna be fun. Protecting is like battling for people. You're gonna get maybe a little angry because someone hurt your family's feelings or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I love that. I can protect. I got this. But when you read the Bible, it kind of tells you usually you're wrong and you don't know everything. And then I had to figure out oh, wow, I'm really wrong and Paul's gonna fix me while I'm doing this. And so the past 3 weeks I've been going into my scripture, I figured out I was wrong. And now I gotta understand, and I'm gonna teach you guys how I was wrong. So when I go into the main mindset of protect, I'm gonna show and share with you what I instantly think of. And it's something like this, my wife, right? I love this photo of us. That's a fun photo. That was from our engagement photo shoot, and it's one of my favorite photos we had together. But that girl right there, I am willing to protect. No matter what, I don't care if it's a dog, if it's a person, I'm willing to get in between something and save her if it needs be, or sacrifice myself for her. And it's because, she's my wife. I love her. I'm willing to do that. I saw a photo recently, and it's that idea of when I'm walking with my wife and we're on the sidewalk, I stand on the left side because, the road, I need to protect her. And then in the next slide of the video was what the heck are you gonna do against a Camry? I can't protect you against a Camry. It's that funny idea. You think you can protect her against anything because you're, her husband, but really, what are you gonna do against a 1,200-pound machine? Nothing. But that's my wife. I love her. I'm willing to do anything for her. The next person that came to my mind, I was thinking of people who I'm also willing to trust with just instinct or protect is my brother. Look at that. You want to find an ugly photo of yourself? You go to mom's Facebook, you'll find it. I'm telling you. Go to mom's Facebook, she's got the photo of you. Well, let's get to a little bit of a better photo. Yeah, there you go. That's a glow up if I've ever seen one, right? So that's my brother. That was on the day we got married. I got married, and yeah. Whoa. That was on the day I got married to that beautiful girl in the first one. Okay, remember that photo? That was my brother. He's my best man, and that's a guy I'm willing to protect. I know he's pretty capable, but he needs me most of the time. But I'm willing to step in and protect him if need be. I'm willing to have his back in any circumstance. And just like my brother and just like my wife, it's because I love them. I don't have to think about it. I will just do if it comes to it, right? When you guys have that circle, that person, those people you trust, where you're just I don't even have to think about it. I'm gonna step forward. I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna love them. I'm gonna do this or that. It's instinctual because of love, because you love them. And so I was oh, this is gonna be fun. Yeah, Paul, this makes it easy. I get to talk about the people I love. I get to talk about how I'm so cool and protect them, and I'm the big brother and the cool husband, right? And then Paul, you gave him the word, and it changes that. So my definition of protect, if I sat down and I try to be all scholarly, and I try to write my own definition, and my definition I wrote was this: protect is a physical act of self-sacrifice between someone or something you love. That's my definition. That's what I thought when I'm going into this, that it's only for someone or something I love. And Paul, when I'm getting into it, he reads this in 1 Corinthians 13, verse 1 through 3. It says this: if I speak in tongues or languages of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I might boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. And I'm reading through this, and as I'm reading, I'm realizing love comes before works. The love with my wife, the love with my brother, that took me and my brother, 23 years that relationship built. Me and my wife, we started dating 2 years before, or a year and a half before we got married. We were friends like a year, 2 years before that. So that's like 6 years total, 7 years total of us having a relationship, me building that love. It took time. It wasn't easy. And Paul's addressing here when he's talking, he's not talking to the church and their families. And that's what I was going into this. I'm going in talking about my family or the people I care about, but Paul's going in and talking about the people around you. He's talking about the Corinthian church, and at that time, Corinth was a disgusting place. It was a place you didn't want to be around. It was a place that you couldn't trust. It was a place that had no hope. It was a place that you probably felt in danger or at risk, and you needed protection. It was a place that I wouldn't want to be in. And Paul's addressing the church that they're doing things to protect, they're doing things to step out for themselves or maybe others, and they're not doing it at all through love. And he's saying, if I speak in languages or languages of men of angels, it means nothing if you don't have love. If I go to church and I stand up here and preach to you, but I go outside and I never show love, why the heck was I up here? If I go to prayer on Thursday morning, but I never show love to someone I don't know, why did I go to prayer? You can do all the steps, you can do all the things, but if you never have love, it's pointless. And that's what I was trying to figure out here because I was still lost at this point. And it's that idea, love before works. At the end of 1 Corinthians 12, Paul, before he gets into 1 Corinthians 13, mentions there's a more excellent way. And I didn't know what that more excellent way was. I had to really dive into it. But this whole chapter 13, is introducing us to what's better. What are we supposed to do? What am I supposed to walk like or look like or talk like? Or how do I even protect? Because I thought it's because I love people or I love my family. I love my brother. And this more excellent way, I think Paul is addressing back in Matthew. Matthew chapter 22, verse 37 to 39 says this. Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself." So when I'm reading that, I saw the first part. I'm like, okay, I can do that. Love God, you go to church, you pray. I do my devotion, I go on missions trip. We'll do a baptism. I can love God. That's easy. And then usually when I read this, it says, love your neighbor as yourself. And it's like, that's not too hard. But then when you dive deeper into that verse 39 of what that actually means to love your neighbor as yourself, it sucks. It's not fun. Because I don't want to love my neighbor because sometimes my neighbor's annoying. And then when it says a neighbor, my mind instantly goes to the people in my circle. But Paul's addressing and saying, your neighbor here in this story is the person you dislike the most. Is that person you saw on Instagram or Facebook make that annoying post? Is that person you saw on the side of the road maybe with a sign that really made you mad? Is that person that cut you off when you were driving here this morning? Is that person that's in the far left lane and they're driving 45 and it's 50 miles per hour and you're like trying to get somewhere and they're just in your way? It's that person you're supposed to love. And it's really nice when you read this quickly and you don't dive into it and you just think it's the people around you, but when you extend it out to the next ring of the people that you don't have a relationship with, you don't care about, that's when this whole idea of love shifts, and it's way harder. And I still, at this point, was confused on why the heck is Paul saying I need to protect? And then I read in the very beginning of 1 Corinthians 13 and 4 through 6, it talks about this love that Jesus was mentioning. And this is the love that Jesus is talking about. 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4 through 6 says this: love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. And then in verse 13 through 7, it says, instantly, the first thing it says, it always protects. Love always protects. And I was like, I don't get it. I don't understand this protection. What am I protecting against? And then when I realized in the verses 4 through 6, it's saying love is patient, love is kind, love does not envy, it does not boast, it's not proud. I'm realizing this whole idea of love protects isn't me doing something for someone, it's me protecting others from myself. That am I willing to say, I'm willing to be patient with the person who's really making me mad? Am I willing to be kind to the person I want nothing to deal with? Am I willing to not boast when I have every right to be like, I beat you, or I won, or I'm better than you, I'm more righteous. I went to church this Sunday, did you? I'm willing to put my pride aside. I don't dishonor others, even when they deserve every bit of it, right? I'm not self-seeking. I'm not easily angered. That's what I'm protecting. My mind always went to my family or other people around me. I'm here to protect them, be like, the knight in shining armor. But really, it's this idea of inner self that you're protecting them from what you do. There is a story I have of me failing pretty badly at this. I was heading to my favorite coffee shop, Bodhi Leaf. If you love Bodhi Leaf, you know they got the best coffee around. And if you go to Bodhi Leaf, there's usually some select characters that are sitting outside Bodhi Leaf. As I'm walking up to the door, I see one of the homeless men sitting there at the table. He's kind of, being loud, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna make it to the door. I don't wanna deal with that right now. And he yells, hey, and I'm like, I didn't hear it. I'm gonna just keep walking. It's horrible. And then as I keep walking, I'm getting closer to my door, my seating area I'm looking for. I hear him yell even louder, hey man. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm literally the only one around, so I can't ignore him at this point. I look over at him, I see he's sitting there, he's got a Bible out. I was like, hey, how you doing? And he's like, good. He's like, you got cash? And I was like, no, I actually don't. Who carries cash anymore? I got a card though. I was like, I can go buy you something inside Bodhi Leaf, if you want coffee, food, whatever you want. And he was like, no, I actually just really want cash. And I was like, okay, whew, I don't have to deal with you anymore. I'm gonna sit over here. I was like, okay, I hope you have a great day. And I went to the furthest part away from him and sat at a table. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna just sit here because I was waiting for someone to come meet me. I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna get on my phone because then it looks like I'm busy, right? He won't bother me now. So I'm gonna sit there on my phone. And I'm close enough to where I can still hear him ranting. He's kind of singing and talking and stuff. And another guy comes up and the man starts walking in. Guy does the same thing. Hey man, and the guy, the other guy, the nicer one in this story, walks up and says, oh hey, how are you doing? And the man's like, you got cash? And the guy's like, yeah, I got some cash. I got to go back to my car, but if you just wait right here, I'll give you some cash. And the guy's like, yeah, go back to your car. So the guy goes back to his car, gets his cash, and comes back to the homeless man and gives him his money. That's not the good part about this story. It's the next portion of what this man does that really hit me while I'm sitting there. I'm sitting there, I can hear everything, I can see everything. The man comes back, gives the homeless man cash, and he says, how are you doing? And the guy's like, good. And he's like, are you reading your Bible? And the homeless man's like, yeah, I am reading my Bible. He's like, and I'm also sitting here singing and praising. And the guy, instead of just being like, oh, that's really cool, and leaves, as the homeless man's sitting there, he gets down on his knee and then just hangs out with them and talks to them, talks to them about the Bible, talks about what he's praying about, talking to him about his day. And maybe he was there 5 minutes, not long. And I'm sitting there on my phone trying not to be bothered. The pastor, two tables down, who couldn't have been bothered by it. And I failed in that moment to say, I'm willing to step out of my own pride, my own selfish desire to just get through my day and have a coffee and a meeting to protect and love you. No one was willing to protect him. He was sitting there by himself, reading the Bible, doing something good. What was I doing? Probably looking at social media. And yet I left him there alone. Love over self. Love is willing to put love first before whatever I need. Love is willing to put others first before whatever I need to do or whatever desire I have. One of the best people I can think of when I was thinking love over self is Jesus. Jesus is by far one of the best people who gave us all the examples of how to love others before self. He loved the tax collector. Everyone hated that guy. I mean, right? We got the IRS who's gonna try to take all of our stuff. No one likes the tax people. We got Jesus who cares for the woman at the well. Jesus who always cared for the sick. Jesus always cared for the outcasts. And even in this next story I'm gonna talk about, Jesus even cares for the man who's willing to kill him, torture him, beat him, spit on him, and make fun of him. And we're all pretty familiar with this story, but it's the story of Jesus when he's in the garden before Judas is gonna come betray him. He's waiting there. Jesus knows what's coming. The disciples aren't too sure what's going on. But Judas comes with this high priest and the Roman soldiers, comes to take Jesus, right? Jesus is waiting there. Jesus comes and confronts them. Judas does this thing, kisses him, and says, "This is the man." And Peter and the disciples are like, what is going on? And Peter is thinking from where I'm thinking, he's like, dude, I gotta do something. I love this guy. And someone needs to step up and do something. So Peter pulls out his sword and, tries to cut off the dude's head, but somehow only gets his ear, which I don't even know how you do that. But cuts off his ear. Jesus in this moment has a decision to make. Jesus has free will. It was really hard for Jesus, I bet, to go and let them take him, knowing he's gonna be tortured. If I was Jesus, I was like, that's my boy. You try to take me, he's gonna take your other ear. I would not want anything to do with that. But Jesus instead tells Peter, stop. This is not our way. We don't love this way. This is not how we protect. And instead, Jesus goes down, picks up the dude's ear, and puts the ear back on his head. Jesus is willing to love others even though they're gonna destroy him. When I'm the Peter who's like, you gotta fight. You can't just let him do that, walk all over you. How can I be patient and kind when the dude's gonna take you? I know that. And then that's when I started reading in this commentary. And this one section of the commentary really stuck out to me. And it really made it all click for me in this moment. It was this. It was for sinners Christ died. For men who were neither good were neither righteous nor good. The contrast is between the tremendous worth of life laid down and the unworthiness of those who stand to benefit from it. Back of the death of Christ for sinners is the love of God. And it ends with this: God loved, Christ died. In that moment, it made sense for me. I don't know why, this light bulb switch turned on. And it was that Jesus, I always put Jesus' death, that's the best story, right? He died, he resurrected, he rose again. He's given me an opportunity to be a new person. But I never focus on the way God loved before that and how without the entire story of God's love, without the entire purpose that he had and every moment he gave mercy and grace, that death on the cross would have meant nothing. That death on the cross would have been just another death on a cross. They did crucifixions all the time. They weren't nothing special. But this one was special. Because not only was it Jesus Christ, God our Savior, but it's because God showed love continuously over and over and over again. Because Jesus, before he died on the cross, his entire life was giving to others over self. To love others first. To protect others from himself. In one of the scriptures in the story of Peter, Jesus says in that moment, he says, I could call down a legion if I wanted to. You think I'm scared of these guys? I could do anything I want. And yet he chose to say, I'm gonna protect them over myself. I know what I'm doing. I know the purpose of my love. I could protect all of us. I could destroy any of these Roman soldiers, but no. I know what the Father has for me. And it's that more excellent way that Paul says in 1 Corinthians 12, it's love. God loved, Christ died. And this love is this love called agape. It's a self-giving divine love which emanates from God. It's a love that directly mirrors what God wants. A love which is concerned for others rather than self. I have a story of my dad when I was in middle school. I remember we were driving to youth group one night. As we're driving, we're on like a pretty busy street. It's not like we're the only people on the road. It's almost as if you're driving down Santa Margarita Parkway. Like there's plenty of cars all the time on that road. And it's not like we're by ourselves. But as we're driving, we're heading to church, we've got things to do, we have people to meet, and we see on the side of the road, on the far right-hand side, there's a girl curled up like in a ball in crisscross applesauce. Sorry. And it's not a funny story, sorry. So she's curled up in crisscross applesauce, and there's a dude over her just beating her, kicking her, punching her, and there's a dude with him on his bike just watching. Just literally watching his buddy beat down this girl. The girl was the guy's girlfriend, and he's just beating her down. My dad, as he's driving down the road, doesn't hesitate and just pulls off to the side. No one else pulled off to the side. My dad just did it. Gets out of the car, gets in between the man and the girl, and makes sure she's protected. You might think, well, anyone would stop for a girl who's getting beat down on the side of the road. There was lots of cars driving, and not a single person stopped. No one went to help. People stopped once cops showed up, and then they stopped and said, oh, we saw it happening, but we didn't know what to do. We just kept driving. We just wanted to come back until the cops came. And you're like, well, what's good is that? That's a love that's concerned for others rather than self. My dad wasn't thinking about himself. He was thinking, I need to protect and show love. And it was an instinctual thing. With my wife and my brother, I don't have to think about it, I do. When it's for someone else, you have to think about it. Well, is it worth it? Oh, maybe they'll pay me. Maybe I might get some cash out of it. Or maybe they'll buy me a Starbucks, what can I get out of it if I'm gonna help someone else? It's never just an instinct for someone you don't like, someone you don't know, someone who really annoys you. You always gotta weigh it before. And there's only one way to get this love to something that's instinctual, that you just act upon. And it's this. In 1 John 15, verse 5, it says this, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. I would love to get to that agape love, where I'm willing to just say, I don't matter at all. I just act on loving others. But then when you put the people you don't like very much into it, it's not fun. And ultimately, when I think of this protecting to love others, it's also protecting myself. Imagine I can walk around the store. Imagine I can walk around and drive around. And when I see someone who really just frustrates me, they have no power over me. I no longer get mad every time someone cuts me off. I no longer get mad every time I see that social media post. I no longer get super frustrated and angry and dishonoring every time I see someone say that. And you know what that thing is. You're thinking of maybe what that is. It sounds like it's all you got to give up. You got to do this. You got to protect. But ultimately, it's protecting you too. I would love a life where I don't get angry at everything. I would love a life where when I walk around, nothing almost affects me. Like imagine that weight. And the only way you're gonna get to this love is just like what Kevin invited us all into, the baptism next week. Baptisms, giving your life up to the Lord, doing devotions, doing the work, doing the prayer, doing your devotion. You can do the work, we need the work. But you can't do any of it. It's all pointless if you don't have love. Love protects through sacrifice. Are you willing to sacrifice something of yourself, something that's selfish, to really love others well, outside your circle, outside of your close people?